I finished watching Slightly Scarlet for the second time ever. I'd only seen it for the first time in the last year, and I consider it a possible candidate for Dwan's greatest film ever. Here, him and John Alton's collaboration reaches its creative peak. I was bewildered at how many glorious opportunities for screen caps which this film's immaculate photography offered. The plot concerns the rather complicated affair between Rhonda Fleming's June Lyons and John Payne's Ben Grace. Grace is a corrupt police officer who has been following June, the wife of a principled mayoral candidate, and fell in love with her. Initially intending to gather dirt on one Frank Jensen for a crime boss, Grace decides he will release some incriminating dirt on this crime boss, Solly Caspar, instead. June's sister Dorothy becomes involved. Attracted to Ben, although rejected, she feels a strong scorn which winds up motivating the firing of several gunshots during this film's bloody climax. This film's script is based off of a novel by James M. Cain, adapted to the screen by one Robert Blees. I was actually unaware, I don't know if I'm supposed to feel ashamed by this, but James M. Cain wrote the novels The Postman Always Rings Twice, Mildred Pierce, and Double Indemnity, so he inspired more than one film noir, or in one case Italian neorealist, classic. Perhaps I ought to have been more aware of this esteemed literary giant James M. Cain of the lauded hard-boiled school of prose. It's a decent story to be sure, worth adapting as those other three stories had, although it is certainly the cinematography which makes this film rather than the narrative. One can merely enjoy this film via looking at it, in my opinion. The performances are okay, but they are not overwhelmingly impressive. Again, this is an expressionistic visual experience. One is best off merely sitting back and looking at what is conjured within the four corners of Dwan Alton's frames. My video may as well consist of nothing but screen caps, no narration necessary, although I had to give some context about what this film even is in the first place. Although I didn't bother when discussing Dwan's 1958 film Enchanted Island. Actually, just to make up for that, I'll just share a little spiel on 1958's Enchanted Island. There is a video I have uploaded featuring the screen caps from that film, so do seek it out if you are curious. Enchanted Island is Bird of Paradise for 1958. Not a remake of Bird of Paradise, Delma Daves crafted a fairly dispassionate, though thinly pretty, voyage back to that infamous, scandalously erotic depiction of the other, with all of its lucidly fetishistic primeval manifestations. Dave's take isn't a great picture at all. It's blandly cynical, to be perfectly honest, though strangely, Dwan's Enchanted Island, a de facto remake of Bird of Paradise, recreated the same appeal for 1958. The exact same film if it were realised and executed for the first time, without being an extravagant production for its time, however. So rather than it being okay, let's follow the beats of a pre-existing film, yawn, it was an original envisioning of Bird of Paradise's perceived justification for existence, the privileged escapism which it sought to bestow upon, and assumes it was desired for by its paying audiences. Sir Enchanted Island, featuring cinematography by one George Stahl Jr., was quite vivid and wholly impressive as a visual piece. The 1951 Bird of Paradise picture, conversely, has Desmond Davis essentially overall waste Winton C. Hotch, in my opinion. He was actually apparently trying to faithfully realise that Richard Tully theatrical play. Daves wrote the screenplay for the 51 film, which is, the Richard Tully theatrical play, which this whole charade was originally based off of. Vidor and Selznick were trying to match that play's appeal on the screen, creating a uniquely cinematic spectacle which would sell and to the nation, further on the talkies, not actually translate it. Excuse me. Bird of Paradise in 1932 was great, glossy, pathological cinematic trash, and I vaguely love it still. I made a classic bizarre video on it some time ago. But then, taking the material seriously as art, not as trash, not the right approach to this whole tasteless Bird of Paradise thing. So yes to Vidor, no to Daves, but yes to Dwan, because he made it vivid and pretty and trashy, which was extravagant and glorious in Enchanted Island. Dwan and his cinematographer Stahl Jr. effectively shot Mexico with the geographic illusion that it is an island. There's a certain imagination which inescapably pervaded the Enchanted Island production, as we can imagine, as opposed to the everyone just hanging out, having a fine time in Hawaii vibes of 1951's Bird of Paradise. Anyway, that's a tangent, but one genuinely related to the magnificent director Allan Dwan. But yeah, Slightly Scarlet, absolutely magnificent. One of the best colour dramas of the 1950s to come out of Hollywood. I mean, one of the finest cinematography jobs of that era, of the old Hollywood color era, frankly. Absolutely superlative. I cannot praise this film enough. It may very well be the best film from Alan Dwan. If it weren't for The Most Dangerous Man Alive, I'd be fairly confident that it is.